There. So, as you can see, for this virtual roundtable to kick off the GloFouling Partnership Challenge competition, we are going to hear from Paul Holtus, sharing some key information about the owners and organizers and the formal setup for the GloFouling Partnership project and the role of World Ocean Council. I will take you through the practical timeline, the role of TOOL and the TOOL Spawn resource matching platform in this, and how you can all now get on board and join this crowdsourcing approach to really bring up the world of solutions and increase the collaboration on this important field. Then we are so happy to have an amazing group of experts joining us. We have Mario Tomburi from the Alliance for Coastal Technologies and Maritime Environmental Resource Center at the University of Maryland. We have Jeffrey Swan, Professor of Oceanography and Ocean Engineering from Florida Institute of Technology. We have Runa Skarbe, who has earlier today launched the Clean Hull Initiative from the Bellona Foundation. And I will bring in for some Q&A and expert comments also Nina Jensen from Rev Ocean, Nina Blücher from Sintef Ocean, and we also have Fredrik Myhre from WWF here. So we are really, really excited. And a little bit later today, we are also gathering the people who are physically present in Oslo at Nova Sea's landing spot, the Salmon, for a more physical, intimate launch. So we are excited to get going. And Paul, I will now give the word to you so that you can share the overall lines and the information about the GloFouling partnership and the VOC role.
Great, thanks very much, Birgit. We're very happy to be partnering with the Ocean Opportunities Lab, and Birgit, who many of you know, or if you don't already, you should get to know, because she's a driving force in so much of the ocean and blue economy innovation that's helping to shape the future of the ocean. So I will just very briefly introduce the context here in terms of the World Ocean Council and the GloFouling partnership as the background and our platform really for what we're really going to focus on here with the innovation competition, the challenge to really bring more innovation in a focused way into addressing this very complicated, difficult problem of biofouling. So let me just pull up a couple of slides and then I'll hand back over to Birgit, and I hope those slides are appearing. Birgit, yes, you can see them. Okay.
Yes.
Go full screen here, and there we go. And I'd also, excuse me, introduce that we have Tina Liu, who is the World Ocean Council COO, is on the screen, and she and Birgit will be really managing this innovation challenge as we move forward. So I really first want to acknowledge and thank those behind the GloFouling project, the formal institutions and funders. So we have the Global Environment Facility, GEF, the UN Development Program, UNDP, IMO, the International Maritime Organization, and then the real executing partners, IMO, the UNESCO Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, and ourselves, the World Ocean Council. And to just give you a, if I can get my screen to change here. Oh, kind of stuck. To give you a sense of who the World Ocean Council is. There we go. One too far. There we go. The World Ocean Council is the global blue economy business and investment organization that brings together all of the ocean industries, shipping, fishing, oil and gas, offshore renewables, ports, tourism, etc. And we have the original, by far the largest global network on ocean sustainable development, with some 35,000 business, industry, investment, and innovation stakeholders, and the annual Sustainable Ocean Summit, which is going back to being a physical event this year. Later this year, we'll be announcing something in the weeks to come. But really creating that collaboration across the sectors. And in fact, I was on the panel here at the North Shipping event, exactly this subject of cross-sectoral collaboration and system change. And so we are really working to ensure that industries know and trust and work with each other to tackle cross-cutting common issues. One of those issues, which we have been working to move along since our very first Sustainable Ocean Summit in 2010, is the issue of biofouling in the context of the various industries which are affected by biofouling and the impacts it has on them, and the impacts that the spread of invasive species has on marine biodiversity, as well as the biofouling issue in relation to increasing friction on vessels and reducing vessel efficiency. I think we're all here because we're familiar with and involved in biofouling in one way or the other, but really to stress this point that it is a multi-industry global issue that requires tackling on that global multi-industry scale. And that's why we've identified at the very beginning of World Ocean Council as one of those key issues that requires that level of global multi-sector collaboration if we're really going to address the role of biofouling in the spread of invasive species in particular. As noted, there is also this issue of the fuel efficiency and carbon emissions that are affecting the shipping industry due to biofouling. But this is all then, in terms of the current landscape that, as I say, the Global Environment Facility, GEF, the UN Development Program, UNDP, IMO, have come together to create the GloFouling project and bringing in UNESCO, Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, IOC, and ourselves as the executing partners to really develop and deliver this program of activities to focus on, for 5 years, on the biofouling issue across the world and across the sectors, with the WOC particularly being here to engage on the role of the other sectors as we work to tackle this very complicated issue. And just trying to get to the next screen. There we go. So we have, and just to wrap this up, to give you a quick sense of what's being covered by the work to engage industry, excuse me, especially the non-shipping sectors. So looking into best practices, and I know quite a few of you on the call here have been involved in the work that we started the other year to pull together information on best practices for key non-shipping sectors. You see there in the third bullet: aquaculture, offshore and gas, offshore renewables, dredging, and coastal infrastructure. And so we've been now most recently have developed a survey to reach out to those sectors who don't really necessarily see themselves as being part of the biofouling ecosystem, but we're working to get input from them to the level that they understand the issue and are engaging on it. That leads on to this next point of developing information and awareness raising materials for industry, and creating the outreach, undertaking the outreach at various industry events, and really engaging at that level, particularly now as we can get back to physical events, briefing industry players on the biofouling issue and the role that that they can play in tackling that issue, and the need to come together at a global scale across the industries to work on that. We have a variety of ways in which we are doing this engagement further through Roundtable, a development of a Roundtable process to create a continuity of engaging the different sectors, the different companies, the experts on biofouling moving forward during the GloFouling project and beyond. And certainly we've been working on this before the GloFouling project, so there's a need for continuity and relationships and a structure and process to keep tackling this issue over the long term. And as is highlighted there in our focus today is on the innovation challenge, and I won't go into that in any more detail as that's the focus of of our gathering today. And then lastly, just to mention that our annual Sustainable Ocean Summit, we have been and will continue to ensure that biofouling and the GloFouling partnership is a part of that. So I'll stop there and hand back over to you, Birgit, and we'll keep moving and get into the details of the innovation challenge process. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Paul, for the introduction. So I will just quickly share my screen again and walk you through some practicalities. So with the Ocean Opportunity Lab, we were established to empower generation cleanup. We are designed to help enable the clean transition across ocean and renewables through building the first global ecosystem and tools designed to fuel the industry's group intelligence. So we have a focus on bridging the generation gap, both across age and type of industry actors, working across segments and silos, building solutions by, with, and for founders, ensure borderless matchmaking, and help support change from the inside of our industries. We have a focus on connecting resources, looking at the generic needs for resources across innovators, regardless if they are small startups or big corporates working to resolve complex innovation. So we look at where we can find the right resources at the right time and how we can connect established industry initiatives with innovators across borders and segments. And what we have focused on and are collaborating with the World Ocean Council and a number of the leading ocean clusters on is to connect the best of human and the personal networks and technology, looking at global solutions in the age of talentism. During lockdown, we have built up the world's first interactive global map and resource matching platform for the startups and the established innovators across the ocean and renewable energy industries. And this is a one-stop shop to connect and empower sustainable innovation, featuring the world's first global interactive map, an interactive wiki of innovators, with now more than 1,500 startups and innovators on board, and where anyone, and we for this project will advertise both needs and resources. So the focus here, as mentioned, is to connect across silos. This is built for startups and scale-ups, corporates, cluster hubs and accelerators, actors across education and universities, and NGOs such as the World Ocean Council. So the focus here is to connect the actors from across the industry clusters and groups and turn the innovation challenges into scalable opportunities. So this that you will explore today then is a tech for good approach and a virtual exchange, but where we, instead of exchanging stocks, can find matching resources at the right time, and where we consider that anyone can be an innovator, and all innovators will both represent resources from others and will need resources from others in order to succeed and grow. So on the resource matchmaking side, we have created a platform where we can register needs and a contribution, both on the individual level, company level, through bigger collaborative projects, and opportunity level. So how is it that we will now facilitate the GloFouling competition as a platform? Well, firstly, this is then the tech and crowdsourcing approach, really, to support the GloFouling partnership competition. So you have an A to Z landing platform and a tool to drive the competition from the stage that we are in just now and throughout. So I will just take you in through the key timeline and milestones ahead. We have now been working on the design of the competition and setting up the system support. In this stage, throughout April, we are working on defining the final evaluation criteria together with the IMO and the owners and key partners on this. And we are opening up the pre-registrations for candidates, industry partners, and supporters who want to contribute moving forward. We are in the process now of recruiting the experts and the jury, where the nominations that we put in will then be finalized and set up and decided by the IMO and the key partners. We are in the process now of recruiting partners and prizes for the participants in the competition, and then promoting and starting to onboard. And through the tool spawn, we will also now, parallel to receiving applications, we will also conduct the global mapping and scouting for relevant innovators worldwide. And that work has already started. And we're very excited to see that the first applications have also started coming in, even before the full evaluation criteria and details have come out. During the process or period now from April and throughout July, there is the submission and the entries for innovators coming in. And in week 26, we are hosting then an open pitch event where all of the relevant participants and applicants can join and take the stage to get to present their solutions and innovations in front of a global audience virtually. Then we have a jury evaluation and selection process going through the month of August, which is also the end timeline for having conducted the final selection. The scope here for this competition is truly to bring out the key solutions for 3 categories to now follow and pay attention to. So it will not be a traditional competition where there is one winner announced and a solution to be recommended out on the market, but it will be solutions to watch approach to this, which means that there will be a lot of opportunities both to get a broader access and attention to the range of solution providers within the 3 categories covered by the competition, which is then about coating solutions, cleaning and maintenance solutions, and then monitoring and technology solutions within the sphere of non-shipping areas of biofouling. And then we are preparing also for a range of good post-competition activities to further help mobilize the attention moving forward, and where we hope then also to be able to follow up this initial competition ahead. So the current focus, as mentioned, is on the evaluation criteria and jury nomination. And we have been so lucky to have a fantastic contribution from a range of international experts on providing insights for getting the criteria right in terms of the scope of the competition. And now we are working on the evaluation criteria. We have identified the first candidates for jury, and then the process is now to getting the IMO and the project's owners on board to formally revise and define these criteria and appoint the expert group and the jury. And then early May, we will announce the criteria and appoint the jury. Then, how can you get on board? This is, I think, a traditional crowdsourcing approach to this. It's like it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes an industry to raise and grow sustainable innovation solutions to deliver on the key issues that we need to resolve. We need a broad participation and representation from all of our industries moving forward. So we invite you very openly to get in touch if you or your network can be interested in joining. And then there are at this stage 3 key areas where you can contribute and join. So one part there is on the experts, recommendations and nominations for potential jury members. It is on the partners joining as a supporting competition partners, providing relevant resources as we crowdsource prizes for finalists and the candidates. And then, of course, it's the candidates themselves, whether you are a potential candidate or if you want to join us in the mapping of potential candidates to get on the map moving forward. So how do we do this? Well, first step here is really to get on the map. And we know that a lot of you who are in here today have already started to sign up. So we basically sign up on toolspawn.com and set up your personal profiles. And then the next step is to find the competition under projects. So the project site is where we set up collaborative projects that aims for connecting industry stakeholders across big established corporates, smaller change makers and innovators. Then under the competition, you can explore 5 opportunities at the moment. So here you can read more about the practical details around the competition, and you will also get to see as we go and connect with more partners and companies, they will also be connected into this here. So then you can go in and apply and report your interest for the opportunities that are relevant for you. And here I pulled out 2 of them, which is on the jury and expert candidates and on the industry and price partners. And then the 3 other opportunities that are now currently on the platform, that is for pre-registering interest to join as a competition participant. So we believe that in order to truly succeed moving forward, we need to take the collective approach, SDG 17, put into practice, utilizing the best of humans and technology. So individually, we are one drop, together we are an ocean. So we really hope that this will be an exciting, alternative, open way of approaching a very important project. And I am now very delighted to have one of the experts that has truly been contributing in this process to join. So Mario, would you like to share your screen and contribute with your expert insights?
Certainly, thank you. I will, one moment here, and I'll go into, okay. I was asked to talk a little bit about one of the 3 foci for the competition, and that is the cleaning aspects of biofouling and the need for new innovations and how they might come about. So I put together just a couple of slides here for some background, and we can discuss details as we go forward. But in general, I think it's appreciated fairly broadly that there is a need for the removal of biofouling once it happens on a variety of structures that we put into marine systems or coastal systems. And that's because our current approaches, while effective, are not perfect. And I'll give you an example of that in a moment. So the fouling itself is still, regardless of what we're doing now, interfering with operational requirements and efficiencies. And that needs to be addressed. But even more so, now there's emerging awareness around fouling and its associated issues from an environmental protection and a biosecurity perspective. So layered on top of these operational requirements for removing a fouling, there's emerging rules about doing that in an environmentally protective way or in a way that minimizes the risk of invasive species. So it's already clear that commercial shipping is not the main emphasis for this competition, but it provides a really good example of what we think could happen as part of this effort. Because in shipping, as many of you are aware, biofouling has been a long-standing issue. Macrofouling, large organisms, but even small biofilms can have huge impacts on ship operations. It increases roughness and drag, and of course, increases fuel consumption and exhaust emissions. Macrofouling can also interfere with ships' water systems, like cooling systems or fire systems, by clogging the pipes. So whole husbandry is something that's been going on for hundreds of years. And really what we're left to now is anti-fouling coatings, which we'll hear about in a moment. There's room for innovations there, but right now we have things like biocidal coatings, copper-based sort of anti-fouling coatings, or non-stick fouling release type systems. But even with those coatings that work very well, there's still a need for in-water cleaning. Not all of the ship can be effectively treated with anti-fouling coatings. There's niche areas, small nooks and crannies, like in thrusters or props and the like, where biofouling can accumulate and become a problem. And also if ships are laid up or sit in locations for extended periods of time, they can become fouled even with the best of coatings. So new innovations are evolving dramatically in the shipping world because there's a market driver for it. The shipping industry itself wants solutions. And so there are things like proactive in-water cleaning systems and reactive removal of macrofouling systems that captures waste and so on. And so I think this competition is really to try to help the other applications of marine fouling to have similar sort of innovations and so similar sorts of developments. Here are some examples of the other applications that are of interest for this competition. You've already heard about offshore platforms and structures. This is offshore energy extraction or renewable energy and the like. Oftentimes, these structures are far more complex than ships. So while it might be relatively straightforward to clean a flat surface like a ship hull, these intricate pilings and structures that do get heavily fouled are a little bit tougher to clean, if you will, in water. These structures are often put out for extended periods of time, but they do in fact move, whether they're moved for a new location for use or when they're decommissioned. And this extensive fouling is an issue. It, of course, causes drag and weight and so on, but also for biosecurity reasons requires removal. There are some innovations being developed, but for the most part, it's brute force. There's divers with pressure washers knocking this material off. We appreciate that there are environmental concerns associated with that. So new innovations here is greatly needed. Aquaculture, which we've heard about already, is not immune to this. Nets, like everything else you put in water, will get fouled. There's a real need for new innovations in this area, whether it's new materials that has less fouling or less susceptible to fouling, or like these new technologies that are being developed, new in-water cleaning with robotic systems for aquaculture nets and other structures. We heard about coastal industries, things like power plants. Their cooling systems are often heavily fouled. This is an extreme example with zebra mussels clogging a pipe. But you can see this being an issue for cooling systems of power plants or water treatment facilities and the like. And again, a lot of it is forced pressure washing or things like coatings and water treatment to minimize fouling. Again, real need for innovations here. And the last example I'll just provide quickly is something that's near and dear to me, and that's ocean observations. We are developing all these great innovations for studying and monitoring our coastal and ocean environments, critical to understand global change in a variety of different parameters, but they too are heavily fouled. This is just an example of a buoy, but autonomous vehicles as well. They use coatings, but they still are susceptible to fouling. Not just the platforms, but the sensors that go on these systems as well are heavily fouled, and they become ineffective after sometimes just a couple of weeks. Well, what's happening now oftentimes is either copper screens, or this is a mechanical wiper that spins around and wipes the sensor heads clean. Oops, sorry about that. Wipes the sensor's heads clean. And while they work to some extent, there's real need for new innovations to make these more effective going forward. So that's the cleaning side. I was also asked to talk briefly about, and it's just one slide, on bottlenecks for these new innovations or roadblocks to getting new innovations, new technologies into complete operations, right, into TRL level 9, if you will. And there are a lot of them. I just put a few bullets here that I think this competition could directly address or help facilitate the transition of this valley of death for a lot of technologies. One obvious one, of course, is financial support. These new innovations often are developed by small independent groups that don't have a lot of resources. Through a competition like this, there can be some real matchmaking between interested groups that want to support these sort of innovations and the developers. So hopefully this competition will help identify some financial support and investment opportunities. Another big thing is, even if you have a wonderful technology, unless the end users know about it and unless they trust it, you often have limited adoption of that new innovation. So through this effort of building user awareness and market awareness, you can help the customers, if you will, be ready for your innovation once they're ready to go. Oftentimes, what's really needed in these maturing of these technologies is testing, whether it's beta testing or pilot scale testing for maturing technologies that are getting close but not quite there, or sort of final verification validation type testing for things like approvals and certification. And again, through this partnering and matchmaking exercise they'll go on through this competition, I think there'll be real opportunities for good ideas to be tested and proven that they work. And then finally, I think this whole effort, this whole competition really helps provides the critical underlying information needed for the development of technology forcing strategies or regulations. It's clear that fouling is getting regulated. It's happening. It's going to be happening. It's already happening at some level at the shipping side. It's going to branch out into other areas as well. This exercise will let the regulators know what technologies are out there, what's being developed, and they can put out regulations that are feasible in the near future, 3, 4, 10 years down the road. And so the regulations make sense and are achievable and successful in the long term. So I'll stop there. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background, and we can discuss all these issues in the further discussions later. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Mario. That was really, really great. And we are now really looking forward also to hear from Jeffrey Swain. So welcome on the virtual stage, Jeffrey.
Good morning, Birgit. So unlike Mario, I'm afraid I don't have a slide screen to share with you. I was at the test site all yesterday, and for reasons I won't get into, I haven't made it into the office yet this morning. But I don't think that'll really in any way interfere with what I would like to share with you. And you're asking me to talk about management. And first of all, I'm going to paraphrase a couple of, paraphrase something Lord Kelvin said. If you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. And actually, a lot of what we do with my center at FIT is we come up with ways of measuring the performance of everything from materials to coatings to ways of cleaning the surfaces and also cathodic protection. So sort of moving ahead, and it's wonderful to get all these young people involved. I mean, one of the great rewards of my work is I work with young people. And the skills they have in everything from, CAD to 3D printing to, the communications, which, as you know, from my previous experience, I'm not so good at on the internet, it's just fantastic. And I think it's also we have to have an accelerated way of improving how we manage our systems, right? Whether it's a ship, whether it's an offshore wind generator, wave generator, tidal, or aquaculture. We have to do it better. And coming back to Lord Kelvin, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve on it. And so a lot of what we try to do is to put some metrics to the different systems that we look at. I should say here maybe that our test site is located at Port Canaveral. Our main funding comes from the Office of Naval Research, which has been, they really have put a lot of energy and research into trying to basically improve the materials that are available to work and operate successfully in the marine environment. And an interesting one we have just got involved with is with the Bureau of Offshore Energy Management. And we're working with a professor at Tufts called Dan Kutchmer and two ladies from Woods Hole, Colleen Hansel and Loretta Robinson. And this started out because we read that there was a corrosion problem on the interiors of the monopile jackets. And Again, I don't have time to get into the complexity, but looking at that, we said, well, one way to improve the chemistry is to put in perforations, and it works, right? If you put in perforations, and remember a lot of these monopiles are 10 meters diameter, you have an artificial reef too. So the question is now, in addition to designing structures or assets which you place offshore, from an engineering perspective, usually it's biofouling. But from an ecological perspective, and this is where I think there's a lot of really innovative thought and drive, how about designing these for what we call sort of seascaping, right? And also moving along on those lines, we now, rather than having spent most of my life trying to prevent fouling, we actually are now trying to develop materials that restore things like oyster reefs in our local waters. And then it comes back to management, right? And the second quotation I wanted to say to you, and it was one that I believe is from myself, but I said barnacle, right? Friend or foe, biofouling or ecology. I mean, these little titans of the sea, I mean, you look what they do for us, right? Calcium carbonate shells, is that carbon sequestration? I don't know. Has anyone looked at it? And just the biomass it makes available to local ecologies is just huge. So what I'm hoping and what I'm seeing is, with the younger generations coming through our ocean engineering program, is it's not just straightforward, right? We need to find the most effective and economical means of accomplishing what we want to accomplish in the marine environment. But let's step back and think of it in terms of seascaping, right? And to me, we have a huge opportunity. And coming back to the offshore wind, do you use a monopile or do you use a jacket? And if you look at the experience of the offshore oil and gas industry, their jackets often became thriving ecosystems. And I believe there's even discussion in some of the North Sea jackets which they're removing. They're saying, oh, yeah, but what about the sea life, right? What do we do? I look upon that as all good news, again, for management. So it's, again, in the big picture, it's stepping back and saying, what can we do when we go into the oceans? What can we do that basically complements the ecology and retains a healthy environment? So that is where I personally am going from a management point of view. And I think it's very exciting. And I think the younger generation certainly have the skills to move in that direction, and the technology, actually. So I could go on, Birgit, but as I said, without it's amazing without a PowerPoint, sort of often how lost you are, right? And I apologize for that, but there we are. But I think this is a really great opportunity, and thank you for doing it, right? I certainly hope some of our younger students and what have you will submit some ideas to the system. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. And I think, with fantastic experts and dedicated professionals like you, we don't necessarily need PowerPoints because it's all here.
Maybe.
So of course, as mentioned, the collective collaboration on this is so important, and that's why we were all also really happy to see that this kickoff enabled a very good opportunity now to also connect with Bellona Foundation and the Clean Hull initiative that was launched globally at North Shipping earlier today. So we are very, very happy to have also with us Runa Skarbø, who is senior advisor for maritime and shipping in Bellona, but also then the lead for the Clean Hull initiative. And we see that here there are two big initiatives going hand by hand and driving our industries in the right direction in a complementary way. So Runa, would you like to share your updates with the audience?
Yeah, hi, thank you, Birgit, and hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction as well. As Birgit said, I'm a senior advisor on shipping and maritime in the Bellona Foundation, project manager of the Clean Hull initiative that we just launched today, and then rushed into this meeting, so it's a hectical day. So yes, what I thought I could do is, I mean, I work with shipping and maritime, and I thought I could just introduce you very briefly to the Clean Hull initiative in case you weren't able to watch the stream of our event. And my apologies, I'm not the best on Zoom, so just bear with me as I share my presentation. Let's see, I should be able to do this, and then you would think like 2 years into the pandemic, we would know how to do this, but there you go. Okay, let's try this. So, okay, the Clean Hull initiative, let's see. Do you now see the presentation? Yes. It's an initiative that we, sorry about this, guys. There we go. We are focusing below. Okay, so Bellona Foundation is a Norwegian NGO based out of Oslo, Norway, where I'm based. We're also have international offices in Brussels, Berlin, Russia. I'm not going to go into that, currently a bit complicated. But we are focusing on identifying and implementing solutions and actually collaborations, especially with industry and policymakers, politicians, etc. So we launched this project called the Clean Hull Initiative last year, where we focus on biofouling in shipping, especially as an environmental issue, due to the reasons that Mario was talking about. And also specifically focusing on the emergence of proactive hull cleaning as one of the tools that can be used for good biofouling management. So the objective of this project is to actually accelerate development and implementation of an industry standard on proactive hull cleaning. And that is really what we were talking about today at the launch event, getting the word out. There's for sure more people that we want to have involved that we haven't yet been able to talk to. So many of you are probably on this call as well. Don't be surprised if you get if I reach out to you, or feel free to reach out to me if you want to get involved, because we really want to have a big alliance here, not just from the industry, but also regulators, sports sector, etc. And I just wanted to show you, first, why we are involved is that we, as I said, we have a history of working with industry and also kind of actually doing specific things. So for instance, around 10 years ago, we started a working group that developed the ISO 19030 standard. If you're familiar, for those of you familiar with that, for those not, it's related to hull and propeller performance. And it's now approved and also in use by the industry. So this is, let's say, modeled after the same template. It was a very successful development of an ISO standard with lots of stakeholders involved. We're also a member of the Clean Shipping Coalition. We have, by that membership, an observer status in the IMO MEPC committee. So we are present in the relevant forums and really trying to influence where we can. So yeah, Mario said something about this. I'm sure many of the call are very aware of these issues. But what I really want to, show is that one thing is that it's a big biological issue. And it's not just affecting fishery or shipping as well, but it's affecting the other sectors that I know this challenge is focusing on. So, and this kind of socioeconomic cost that can be actually really hard to quantify, how it affects fisheries, how it affects the coastal industries, tourism, infrastructure, etc., is hundreds of millions of dollars yearly. In addition to that, and this is kind of bringing in into shipping, as well, it's one of the main vectors for spreading invasive species. I know the numbers are disputed or maybe not really certain, but this number of 70% is, I believe, Mario, you're the source of this, that currently of the non-native aquatic species are spread via biofouling. But also then, if you look at actual kind of commercial impacts, of course, on a vessel, if you have fouling, it increases the fuel consumption by lots. You have a lot of added friction when you kind of try to push your vessel through the water, and it increases the energy consumption quite a lot. How much is still under debate. We had a very good presentation on it earlier. I put a link to the live stream in the chat. We haven't still been able to compress it, but if you fast forward to the waiting slide in the beginning, you will see the whole event. A very good presentation from a surface scientist in Jotun that was explaining what we know and what we don't know yet about how it affects the fuel consumption for the whole performance. But even if you take into account this number of 9% that the IMO is using for their greenhouse gas reports, if you look at the global fuel consumption in shipping and estimate just 9% out of that, that is equivalent to 80 million tons of CO2 equivalents yearly. I mean, to put that in perspective, it's such a big number, right? And to put that into perspective, it's equivalent to like a country like Greece, the total emissions of a country like Greece. And it's also costing a lot of money. I mean, with the war and everything going on now, we have current fuel prices saying that it will be around $16 billion yearly in fuel costs just for the shipping industry. And that's only talking about that. Yeah, okay. So I'm not going to go into that. Mario was talking about it. There's several ways that we can combat anti-fouling. As I said, we're focusing on the proactive. That is a way that you can clean it in water. And why we have chosen to do that is that we believe that it's a good measure to add to kind of get in to the fouling early and remove the fouling when it's still in early stages. When you can do it gently, you can kind of keep a lower, let's say, mean fouling on the vessels, reduce the fuel consumption a lot, and also not damage the coating. We also believe if you clean very frequently, you also don't bring the invasive species with you when you sail around the world. This is a table from the latest revision of the IMO Biofouling Guidelines. There's currently being revised. There's a meeting this week that I have unfortunately not been able to follow as much as I wanted to because it's also no shipping where I'm currently at. This biofouling guidelines are going to be finalized until next year. And we see that proactive cleaning is at this stage is suggested as a recommended practice. We do believe, because this is an emerging technology, we do believe that this is something that should be, well, we don't really know how to do it yet. What is safe? What is kind of good practice for this? And this is the reason why also, sorry, I'm going to skip this slide. It was a recent report commissioned by the IMO that also was looking at this. And not to go into detail, but the regulatory landscape, especially for shipping on biofouling regulations globally, is very complex. It looks like there's going to be a mandatory international instrument for biofouling, especially for shipping. But one of the recommendations was also then that should be developed performance standard for in-water cleaning. And that's what we're doing, focusing on the proactive cleaning part. So just very briefly, these are the stakeholders that we want to have involved in this work. We want to have the shipping industry, obviously, but also the regulators, port sector, both commercial ports, but port states, coating manufacturers, the technology and service providers that does the in-water cleaning, and also the scientists that are on board. As of now, these are the stakeholders that we have talked to that are involved. Very briefly, it's a start. We launched today, as I said, and we're waiting, or we're receiving a lot of interest. So we're seeing that this is going to be a list that grows in the coming years. And we also have everything from the bigger players to smaller startups. So I'm really happy to see that. Yeah, I think I'm going to stop there, baby. And I just want to say that I'm happy to be here and happy to be a part of this challenge and happy to contribute where I can.
That is super. Thank you so much for the presentation, Runa. And, you know, I can't say how happy I am also to see the momentum that is building up in this area, because it has really been kind of an area that is very much underinvested and where they're so important that we actually can do a big job moving forward. So I will just now, as we are have gone through the initial presentations, we have some both space for some Q&A and some insights from a few other of the experts. So I will just go back to my screen share again to provide you with some further details on the scope and the categories for us to have in the background as we go to the more interactive part. So just a second to get back to screen share. So as we can see, whoops, is it in this full? Sorry. There. So as we can see, the scope of the GloFouling partnership competition and the part that is coordinated with the World Ocean Council and with the support from TOOL is on the non-shipping areas. So this competition and the call for innovators is focusing on solutions and technologies then for coating and cleaning for the infrastructure across ocean energy, aquaculture, and fishery. The deep sea and the big ships are outside of the scope, while short sea, specialized ships, port infrastructure, smaller ships, and tugboats are in scope. And solutions that are fit for complex installations and infrastructure is considered key. The project also holds a particular interest in solutions that can represent crossover usability or at a later stage be applied to bigger structures and vessels. Then the three competition categories, as mentioned, is first on the coating solutions with an extra focus on alternatives to avoid the plastic or toxic hazardous ingredients. It is on cleaning and maintenance solutions with an extra focus on also exploring circular handling of the biomass, where we see huge potential, as we have done in other areas, taking a circular approach. And then the solutions to better be able to manage biofouling by measuring and monitoring both then fouling and biofouling control of coatings. And while we have now spoken most about the kind of the physical solutions, we invited Nina Jensen from Rev Ocean in, and I was hoping, Nina, that you can share a little bit of your experiences from the amazing work that has been done now from Rev Ocean, also to drive the platform approach and the tech approach to the ocean industry. So, Nina, do you want to join our stage and share a little bit with us both now on what you see as the key bottlenecks or hinders that we need to resolve, and your approach to how we can truly connect technology and digital solutions and the humans and innovators moving forward.
Thanks, Birgit, and happy to offer some reflections to that end. And thank you for putting both the competition together and, of course, this wonderful event. And it's been very interesting to listen to all the previous speakers as well. Of course, the Rev Ocean initiative is one trying to create one healthy ocean. And we're currently building the world's largest research and expedition vessel that will be offered as a free platform to scientists, ocean innovators, tech experts, and ocean enthusiasts from all over the world to come together to both gather knowledge, pilot and test concrete solutions, scale these solutions by getting access to partners and funding, and of course putting them into life. And I think there are a number of challenges to get to that point. First and foremost, of course, we need to understand what the problems are and having a good and solid knowledge base so that we can form the right decisions. There are a lot of there's a lot of data and knowledge out there already, but it's often ignored or not being put to good use. So making sure that the knowledge that we have becomes more readily available is one of the key things that needs to happen. And to that end, we've developed the Global Ocean Data Platform. We're hoping to be able to combine all the relevant ocean data in the world in one place so that we can make meaningful analysis and of course offer this data to decision makers and people like yourselves and ocean innovators from all over the world to create the right solutions. Secondly, I think it's absolutely essential that we have more innovation and that we involve the younger generations in coming up with the solutions. I don't think that solutions to these kind of problems will be solved with existing mindsets or with the limitations of the older generations. I think we also need collaboration with the younger generation that has maybe a more broad perspective on things. And then, of course, collaboration across industries, like you're also trying to instigate with this competition, so that the shipping sector, for example, can learn from the oil and gas industry or other maritime industries in terms of how to solve some of the problems that they're facing, and both bridging gaps when it comes to knowledge, sharing solutions across the different industries, and of course collaborating again to scale some of the solutions that are much needed. And of course, there's always the challenge of bridging the gap between the solutions and the technology experts, innovators out there, and the funding. It's quite surprising that the funders and investors always say that they have lots of money available, but they can't find the projects. And the innovators and the projects say that they have the best projects out there, of course, but they can't find the funding. So figuring out the best way to actually bridge that gap, I think, is also a key part of the solution, and one that, of course, we in RevOcean also hope to contribute to.
Thank you so much, Nina. And we also have another Nina from Sintef Ocean. And you have also prepared some insights from your end. So welcome, Nina, number 2.
In fact, I have not, as you told me that I would be just participating in the panel.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes.
So, yeah, sorry.
But Nina Blücher, do you have any...
to some questions or give some input in general? But yeah, yes. I think it's a great initiative, as there is a lot to do. I mean, I can mostly talk from the point of aquaculture biofouling, but here we have seen, a really dire need for innovation, because basically in the last 15 years we've been using the same concepts to work on the nets, and I think there is a great opportunity for change here, and any innovation that can come through promoting people coming up with new concepts would be a great way to go forward here. Yeah, so there's a lot of potential, and I think this is a great way to promote this.
Thank you, Nina. We also have Fredrik Myhre from WWF here. You know, this is an area we have been discussing a lot over the past years. So, Fredrik, what's your hopes for this competition and on the project moving forward, seen from the WWF perspective?
Thank you, Birgit. And the short answer is the hopes are high. But instead of repeating a lot of the good things that's already been said, I would especially highlight 2 things, and it's more the 2 overarching things that also both this competition, but all the different industries really has to take into consideration and find the solutions for, and which this competition is also a great example on how to think new and have the innovative solutions going forward, which we need. And that is both having the aspect of being climate smart and being nature smart, because I think one key in this competition and for all industries going forward is how can my technology, how can my solution contribute in solving both the nature crisis and the climate crisis going forward. And in that, I also think that the reflections that Jeffrey Swain made about the seascaping and the question on biofouling or ecology is also an interesting aspect that needs to be even lifted more than it is already in the discussions, and also in then how we think on the different solutions which we need. So I'm not going to repeat everything that's already been said by the great speakers that we have been having already, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the companies entering the competition and following the competition forward, and of course also the work done by TOOL and the cooperation that we do have.
And we have already done the first pilot competition with WWF this winter related to the GRIG WWF project to reduce plastic waste in Philippine ports. So what would you say could be now the optimal way to truly engage the younger generation in this? Because, you know, our mission is truly to mobilize climate activists to become and join as business activists, choosing the ocean and energy industries as the optimal areas for truly then building careers, helping to contribute in solving really complex issues. What is it that we are still lacking when we're now going to reach out to existing innovators and entrepreneurs across the small and big corporates, but also, of course, aiming to truly engage and mobilize the young generation on their way out into their careers and the workforce?
Thanks. That was a small question, wasn't it? No, I think one thing that's key is that everybody has to understand that this is all about trying to stay within the planetary boundaries that which the planet actually consists of. And already today we are exceeding the planetary boundaries by having 1.7 planets of resources that we use every year, and we need to make sure to be more smart in how we use the resources going forward, and that goes into everything, of course. And the youth has really come forward in making a huge shift in especially the tempo on how we talk about climate solutions, and how also the world is coming together to try to find the solutions for solving the climate crisis. And I do think that it's absolutely crucial that we also, in the same manner, get that speed up when it comes to nature solutions as well, to tackle the nature crisis, because both, as most of you are aware of, the climate crisis and the nature crisis are two coins of the same thing, and they have to be solved together. And of course, in this, there's huge opportunities in that, because every company going forward needs to move in the line of the Paris Agreement and also the upcoming global biodiversity framework, which we hope to get in place in coming later this year, the so-called New Deal for Nature. And in this, all companies has to take into account that they need to be most likely both climate positive and nature positive going forward. And there's huge opportunities that lies there when it comes to technology, because we do have the clever heads, we just need to find the clever solutions. And the youth are absolutely maybe the biggest part of the solution going forward.
Thank you so much, Fredrik. We now have the last part of this program for the next 20 minutes available for Q&As. So anyone who would either share questions, practical questions for this, or raise your hand when it comes to potentially joining as experts, as collaboration or supporting partners, or who wants to help now on the mapping and getting the optimal solution providers and innovators on towards end of August, when we will do the jury evaluations, then please use the hand raising function here in Zoom, and you can also share comments in the chat. So let us see. Tina, has there come in any questions or feedback so far?
There's some discussion happening in the chat, and indeed, we were planning our categories, this was very key competition. Also, I think that ties back to what Jeffrey was saying. How do we actually measure it? This is specific on microplastics. It's a hot topic that all of us are very concerned. So yeah, there wasn't a question. I think Nina shared a link of a report. Really, I think it's not really easy to hold this session. We have experts knowing the session very well. We also want people who are not familiar with the challenge of biofouling to come in, provide innovative solutions, which might be ready there, they just don't know. So how much depth to go into is not an easy balance to take. So as Brigitte was saying, you may have questions specific to the competition of how to apply those practical questions, or you may have questions to do with the content, if your solution is appropriate for this, or you may be an expert that is already very familiar with the challenge we're trying to navigate through, and you can help us to kind of focus our competition on certain area. All of this will be extremely helpful. So either the hand raising function, or if you raise your physical hands, you have to show your camera so we can see you, and either way would work.
So anything also that you would like to add now, Paul, after introducing and hearing from the various experts? This is a really exciting path ahead also, as we are connecting back to the IMO and the owners of this project moving forward.
Jeffrey had the hands. I saw the physical hands.
I did.
Yeah, thanks.
Excellent.
Am I going to let Paul go, or shall I?
And thanks for very good organizing and the great input from everyone so far. What I would put, I know we have a lot of the key people in this field on the call today, as well as some new names and faces that we'll get to know as we assemble the list from who's participating here. So I think one of the key points at this stage that I'd sort of put out on the table as a question for the sort of biofouling ecosystem experts and participants here is how, if there are suggestions for how we can best get the word out on this, so we're getting to the potential, and Jeffrey mentioned the bid and a few others, getting it out to the young entrepreneurs, the graduate students and others that would really, and Nina I think mentioned as well, we really need to get to those with the kind of the new ideas that is really taking us into a realm of solutions that just haven't been necessarily thought of yet. As Nina Lurker was mentioning, for aquaculture, the same technology has been used for many decades now to deal with fouling. So we really need to get the word out. We've got a fairly compressed time frame for the competition, which we may want to end up seeing about adjusting so that we do really create the opportunity for a good engaging of those and connecting with those out there that might have the ideas to really provide some real innovative solutions here. So suggestions, and either now in the discussion or as we move forward, for people to help us best connect with the constituents, the networks out there that we want to reach with the news about the competition.
Excellent. And now I see that Nina Jensen also comments that Rev Ocean is happy to spread the words in their channel. And we, if we have the marketing material for social media, so that is being developed now, and we will enable that so that we can onboard it and share that across all the partners that will join on board. Then Jeffrey, you also had a comment or a question.
Yeah, I did. And I wonder if we're too in-looking. And the reason I say that, we've just finished actually a hull grooming project. It started off being called the hull bug. So we've got all the data. We know how to do it, but we need the robotics engineers to develop the ROVs or the autonomous vehicles that'll actually make it happen. So whilst we can, solve the biofouling maybe issues, we need help, I think, from engineers maybe or scientists outside And there are not many people really who necessarily know the challenges we're going for. So I don't know how you feel about trying to spread the audience on that.
I definitely think we're very open to reach out wide on this area. So I think that we are now really kind of recruiting quite vast, going both towards the various universities and educational institutions, collaborating, teaming up with the kind of tech and environmental organizations and actors, and of course then tapping into the commercial sphere of the existing startups that also are quite across the industry sectors. There are so many areas here where there will the optimal solutions will require that we crush the silos and explore the solutions that comes from various industries into this.
Yep, I agree.
If there are any other questions, now I see that Mario, who had to go out for a few minutes, is back again. So if there are any other questions, or if there are anyone also in the audience that would already now like to raise their hand and let us know if you see that you want to join and partner up for this, then it's very welcome at this stage. And a little bit later today, and in a bit more than an hour's time, we will also meet physically in Oslo for the part of the audience that is gathered for no shipping. And then we will also explore both here from Paul and from Runa and Bellona, but we will also then explore one of the really interesting cases that is coming out now, focused going from shipping to the offshore and rig supply chain, as Tor Østervold from EcoSubsea will share a case with big industry partners from offshore rig on the circular approach to the biomass and materials cleaned up using an ROV. So let's see, we have 1 quarter left of our allocated time. So Tina, have you received any more questions in the chat? I see that Rajesh has asked here if there is any platform or link where he can find specific coastal issues for regions and country and states. So I'm not sure if we will be able to clarify that just now, but at least we can get that spurred out, and somebody will probably be able to support.
Birgit, I think we can get back if somebody's got information now on that, but I think certainly as a follow-up, we can make that sort of connection. I thought one thing we could do very usefully now with the few minutes we have is if we could go back to the description of the 3 categories, and there's a fair number of you who are on the call now had provided some great feedback over the last couple of weeks, and Tina was managing that feedback, and we worked to incorporate and onboard those suggestions. But we've got a much broader group here now, and I think one thing that would be very useful is to put the 3 descriptions of the 3 competition categories on the screen, and see if there's any feedback or clarifications that we can provide on those. I mean, that will really drive the scope and the content of or the area of work for the competition. So I know we've got the very short version here of the 3. I know we'd had a slightly longer version. I don't know if that's available, but in any event, to use what you've got on the screen now, if that helps us draw in the focus or clarifications that would be useful for those on the call here who are such experts in the biofouling issue to make sure we're being as useful and targeted as possible in the categories that we're proposing. So any thoughts from those on the call about the 3 categories?
know that we have
And if
integrated
not,
quite a
I
bit
guess
of.
we'll consider them good to go.
I know that Nina Jensen brought in some really great input on
I'm
not
not
only
hearing you. I don't know if you're on mute.
I
No.
can hear. You're good. Paul, are you able to
I'm
hear
good.
me?
Okay. Great. No, so no, I know that Nina Jensen came with some really good input on the issue of cleaning, so that we have also explored the cleaning and maintenance into this. And then there are, I think, around 10 experts that has contributed now in the more detailed specification of the categories. And if there anyone who has some additional input, that is really appreciated as we work then towards the next touch base and meet up with the IMO.
Probably, as Paul said, no comments means we're good to go. But it's always it's always a work in progress. And I saw John Lewis earlier in the call. I was trying to go through the list. If John, if you're still here, we reach out to you. And then this is a really late session for Australia, so I didn't know you could make it. It's great to have you. And John also provided some input. I was going to invite him in, but since no. And I got a note. Someone has raised hands. Was it Nina? If so, please.
I didn't raise my hand. I just applauded that Birgit and the team have amended the categories to also include maintenance to avoid microplastics leakage from when you're maintaining the ship, because of course paint is the single largest source of microplastic pollution into the ocean. So this is an opportunity, of course, to deal with both of these issues at the same time. And I guess I just saw a question in the chat as well from Rajesh on whether the cleaning solution will include the management of waste from the cleaning process. I guess in part you've covered that, but maybe you want to say a few words about that. I think that's also really important.
Yes, and there, what we have described in the category descriptions is, of course, that one part here is emphasizing the maturity scalability, but there is also specific focus at both looking at avoiding microplastic and toxics into the ocean, but also exploring then how the various solutions and innovations will ensure a circular approach to then the waste, or as I would say, the resources, and how the biomass can be used in an alternative way. And we know that here there are huge opportunities both for energy, nutrition. We know there are actors working with fish feed solutions from biomass coming from cleaning. So yeah. Then let's see, Datish has a question if the competition is open for people who are not partners in the GloFouling project. And yes, for sure. I mean, both when it comes to participants in the competition and the actors to partner up, crowdsourcing, support, bringing this project out, or contributing with resources and prizes for the top list innovators. Of course, this is a very inclusive and open approach. This is not to be kind of a narrow niche side with only a few formal partners. So this is very much open. I do believe there is a strong focus in the whole fundament, Paul, for the GloFouling project, that this is about really driving and mobilizing partnerships across small and big players, across the kind of academic and business and NGO sectors. And let's see, then Anders Ögården has a question on if this forum will also focus on solutions for recreational boating. And yes, definitely. So while this is non-shipping, smaller leisure boats, ports, etc., is definitely within the scope. So yeah.
I want to say really great to see those very specific questions. That means there are solutions out there and you guys are thinking of applying. I want to say the overarching objective of the whole program is to promote the project focus on non-commercial shipping pathway. As Mario was saying, it's not because they are not relevant, just there's so much focus has been on there already. And we want to really promote the awareness of any other sector. And it's so difficult to really put everything in a box. So we kind of changed the third category a couple of times. I think with Nina was saying maybe we should bring in, what was the term? Monitoring, managing, and also how proactively. I want to say all of this, whatever innovative solution you have out there, we want to really accommodate it in one of the categories. The idea is really to make our ocean more healthy in whatever way we could do. So great to have those questions. And I want to say one more thing, my alarm clock, apologies. I want to say we are 5 minutes before closing. All of this discussion is difficult to have after we close the Zoom session. We're doing it now. And then we are running this competition on tool spawn platform. So if, and Carmen send a message of her email, of her contact here, perhaps it's easier to ask quite specific question after you have created a username, a login, then we can discuss all the related question there. And there might be questions we have not thought about yet. And those questions will be the best. I see there are more questions.
Sure. And I see from Frederick in WWF asks, how can my solution be scaled up and contribute to systemic change at the global level? And of course, this is really important ambition on, and also doing this on the platform with the tool Spawn, is to not only create a competition where there is one or two winners, but where we can actually go in and map the world of innovation solutions on this field, because we also know that the various solution developers out there, they also have various needs for resources. So we know that there is a huge need to bring more capital to this sphere, but there is also a huge need for the innovation projects, whether it's on the small entrepreneurial scale or it's the joint industry projects with more established resources. We know that the need for pilot customers, innovation partners, various growth resources throughout the journey on developing and scaling these solutions is really important. So that will also be an opportunity for the candidates in this progress that we can help bring out also the resource needs that they have during this journey ahead. And that's also what we're really hoping for, getting the recruitment and push from the industry when it comes to the alternative price partners, because it's not only about the funding side, it's also about the actual real industry collaboration door openers.
Let me maybe jump in, Birgit, and as we wrap up, just that was a great question to kind of end on. And I think a key part of this in terms of scaling up is and a big focus of the concept and philosophy and approach behind the World Ocean Council is connecting innovators to the industry. And so that's the market. And so to Frederick, to really respond is to say that the scaling up and contributing to a systemic change or systematic change will be by delivering the kinds of innovations that those that have the problem of biofouling need solutions for. So let's get those ideas in, those innovations in, those entrepreneurs in with their solutions that the market needs, and that's going to create the scaling up, because there'll be people that want to pay for that solution that delivers the efficient and economical solution to the biofouling problem. And in that sense, the scaling also, even though we're focused on the non-large international shipping side of things here, with all its complexities of the various components, and Mario outlined that quite well, that there is a key part of the shipping industry problem are those complex niche areas which are more analogous to then the complexity of an offshore energy structure, for example. So if we're able to, through this innovation challenge, to bring forward solutions to those very complicated structures and configurations, whatever sector they're in, there will definitely be potential for the big shipping side of things to have use of that, because we've still got that ongoing persistent problem of the complex niche propeller, sea chest areas, etc., of even the largest vessels continue to be really the main problem for cleaning and controlling fouling. So it is a multi-industry issue across all of these sectors, and even this focus on non-shipping will have shipping applications undoubtedly.
Thank you, Paul. Well, then I think that we are ready to round off this virtual session today. We would, of course, have loved to be able to bring everybody together, but it's also quite nice that we can team up and join worldwide in a much more environmental friendly way by doing this digitally. And then thank you so much to our speakers and the partners. And I'm really looking forward also to meet some of you in just around an hour physically down at the Salmon in Oslo.